finding your aspiration point and anchoring. Hi, welcome back. I'm no sports fanatic, but I've picked up enough along the way to understand the importance of defense and offense. So far, we've covered defense. We've talked about finding your BATNA. We've talked about how growing and strengthening your BATNA is your best defense. This makes sense intuitively, even if these words are new to you. You can easily walk away from a negotiation that's not landing where you want it to if you have a great alternative. You don't have to fake any confidence if you've got a great BATNA. We've also talked about your reservation point. A lot of the time, particularly when you need a deal to happen, your reservation point is the same as your BATNA. But sometimes it's higher. Maybe you don't need to sell. Maybe you're buying a piece of furniture and you're going to own it for life, but you're not going to go over budget. And you can wait around for months or years to find the right one that's in your budget. Your reservation point is there to keep you from making snap or emotional decisions. Setting and committing to your reservation point is particularly helpful when you don't need a deal. So that's defense. But now comes the fun part. Now we get to think about the best case scenario. What does an amazing deal feel like for you? What's the deal that's going to have you dancing in the streets, tapping your heels together? What's the deal that's going to put a huge smile on your face? Your stretch goal is your aspiration point. An aspiration point should be ambitious but realistic. You're not going to buy a house for $100. That's not a real aspiration point. That's magical thinking. But maybe you can get a 20% raise. It's ambitious. It might take a few rounds of negotiating with your boss. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to sweat. But maybe it's not unprecedented in the history of your company. So, how do you come up with your aspiration point? It's not always obvious. Maybe it's the best sale price for a similar house in your neighborhood. Or maybe if the employer posts a salary range for a job listing, maybe it's the top number of the range. Now, side note, you might want to do some research to find out if that range is real, though, because I've heard stories about potential employers telling applicants that they don't actually plan to pay near the top of their range for an applicant. I've also heard stories about employers telling overqualified applicants that they might be able to come up a little above the range. We're going to talk more about all of this later. At the end of the day, you should set your aspiration point at a number of a package that will make you feel like you've gotten what you wanted and done well in the deal. Maybe it's simply a few percentage points or side issues away from your reservation point. Now, the distance between your aspiration point and your reservation point is going to vary widely depending on what kind of negotiation you're in. But you should always have an aspiration point, even if it feels more hypothetical than your reservation point. We'll talk about why you need one in a moment. Now, I'll be honest, I've had some situations in my life where I had no idea what my aspiration point should be. Even great research has limitations. You don't want to fall into a situation where you're pulling an aspiration point out of thin air. Early in my career, when I was doing a lot of random gigs, I could be paid anywhere between $25 and $300 for the same job. It's a wild range, I know, but I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know the range of possibility. The internet was a different place back then. I didn't know about the power of research and about all of the cool forums where people talk about these things. So I just started throwing numbers out there. It was spaghetti on a wall. Sometimes I'd ask for 50% over my negotiating partner's offer. Sometimes it'd be 25% over. Now, the cool thing was that this strategy did work sometimes. I got more money for my time, but did this strategy get me the best possible deal? No, of course not. This add to my partner's baseline negotiating method ensured that I was always playing their game. Maybe my work was worth double what they were offering, but I never would have made it to that number if I was calculating 20% above their offer and using that number as my on-the-fly aspiration point. And so this leads me to an important concept in negotiations. It's called anchoring. Anchoring is when you come into a negotiation with a strong idea of what you're looking for. You have a number in mind and all the numbers that get thrown out from there are framed relative to that number. Here's an example from freelance life. This is a real one from my friend's life about 10 years ago. She was being paid $50 a piece for writing blog posts. Now, she was a new writer and she didn't have any friends in the industry. She thought it was a great deal. A post took about an hour, and at her other job, she was making $25 an hour. And we are not going to get into the tax implications of freelance versus W-2 right now. But in her mind, she was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm getting paid to write, and it's paying double the hourly rate of my miserable day job. So she anchored to the $25 per hour that she was making at her day job. And in comparison, the $50 per hour that she earned writing blog posts felt much better. Now, fast forward a few months. The publication she's been writing for changes its policy. It's now paying a flat rate of 33 cents a word. Cue the record scratch. What? Her blog posts were a minimum of 500 words each. With this policy, she would have been making $165 a post. That's triple what she was actually making from writing blog posts. Now, her low pay rate stemmed from a failure to anchor. She had been so excited to break into the writing world that she hadn't thought twice about her $50 blog post. What if she'd gone into the negotiation having done her research, expecting to make at least a range of $150 to $200 per post? In other words, what if she anchored on a range of $150 to $200 based on her research? She might not have gotten that much. I mean, she was writing a lot of posts and they were less labor intensive than some of the other stories that same publication put out. But I bet that if she had asked for $150, I bet her editor would have thought twice about paying her 1/3 of what she asked for. When you anchor, you get a chance to frame the conversation. Now, your negotiating partner will probably be anchoring too, if they're a savvy negotiator. You're both probably going to drift away from your anchor as the negotiation proceeds. But anchoring gives you an opportunity to signal to your negotiating partner, hey, I'm serious, and here's what I think I'm worth. Your aspiration point is a useful anchor. It's an important signal to send out when you're ready. Now, we're going to talk soon about how to open a negotiation and when and where to anchor. We're also going to talk about the danger of obsessing over your anchor. But for now, file this idea away. Your negotiating anchor is the same as a ship's anchor. It's a firm weight that centers you on a number or a value or a package of circumstances. Your anchor prevents you from drifting too widely from where you started. It gives you the strength to plan smart concessions and set the parameters of the discussion. It feels like it's time for a handy visual that can pull all these ideas, your BATNA, your reservation point, and your aspiration point, into one place. In the next video, we'll show you the value stick.